consistently attract soulmate clients, begin showing up on brand, monetizing on your calling. Welcome all spiritual coaches, leaders, healers, light workers, and practitioners to a show that turns you on in your business and amplifies your magnetism. I'm host, catalyst, and spiritual business coach Rosalyn Fung, and I'm here to journey with you into the juicy and help you discover where the real gaps are. Ignite your mindset and soul with strategies and systems as each episode takes you to the sweet spot that activates your soulgasmic business. Enjoy this light language activation as we begin to magnetize and monetize. Hello, my loves. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am so deeply honored to have you choose to listen to this show. If you enjoy this episode, please do leave a review, take a screenshot of this podcast, and shout me out on social media so that more people can tune in as well. On Instagram, it's Bold Sexy Warrior, and on Facebook, it's Rosalyn Fung Coaching Bold Sexy Warrior. It would mean the world to me for you to take a few minutes to share and review this. As you know, I would love to spread more love and consciousness to the collective. And we are in for a really juicy episode. But before we get to that, I also want to share, I am so excited and proud of this. I have created a free mini e-course for you on walking you through my fun, bold, and sexy signature method to magnetize your soulmate clients and monetize on your calling. So if you feel called to sign up for this free mini e-course, you can sign up at funboldsexy.com/video-course. You can also grab that in the link in bio on my Instagram page at Bold Sexy Warrior. Okay, my loves. So as you are just tuning in, many of you know that I speak light language, and yet it may still be a mystery about what exactly is it, how does it work, where does it come from, and what ripple effects does light language really have on us? Those of you who have been tuning in for a while with me on the show, you know that I regularly conduct meditations with light language transmissions and activations. And it's so cool to hear the impacts sensationally as well as mentally, emotionally, spiritually it has on you. But you still might be like, how does this work and what can I expect from this? And does it work on everyone or just certain people? So I am so excited that I'm bringing on my special guest, one of my soul sisters, Heidi Mason, who is, like myself, a student at heart and who's become a committed student of her heart and creator of Healing Through Light Language with Heidi Mason. She is a channel and facilitator for the Guru in You Light Language community. That's such a juicy name. And she offers private intuitive healing light language sessions. So as a physical therapist turned intuitive energy healer and light language channel, she's also a yoga, anatomy, meditation teacher, yoga therapist, chronic pain and pelvic health educator, Reiki practitioner, and a full-time homeschool mom. Wow, you guys are in for a real treat. Heidi has developed the ability to literally speak not only the languages of your brain, but now the languages of your heart. She's passionate about sharing both with other open-hearted beings, healers, spiritual seekers, and empowered light workers so that we can all heal the persistent suffering and reclaim our inner wisdom, authority, and divine gifts to ultimately create an outer world reflective of our own inner peace and love. Heidi's favorite part is watching people rediscover their personal power and experience a positive ripple effects their inner healing creates in all areas of their lives. Oh my gosh, Freaking love what Heidi's about. Of course, she's a mirror for me as well, and we have a lot in common. So welcome, Heidi. I am so excited that you're here. If you guys can't tell already.
Me too. I am too. Awesome.
And we had the pleasure of meeting each other in real life. This is how we met. It was last year when we were at a live event. The lockdown, it was just past the first lockdown, I believe. And it was during, was it June, Heidi? June 2020? Anyway, whatever month it was.
It was outside, so obviously.
It was outside. So this was the Kula Sisterhood put on by one of my other soul sisters, Anne Marie Evans, and co-hosted with her bestie, Samantha Beck. And we were both speakers at this event as well. We were booth neighbors, and I just remember, Heidi, feeling your energy. We had been Facebook friends, but we hadn't really got a chance to know each other.
No.
And I just remember my first energy impression of you was just felt like home. Like, oh my gosh, you are so down to earth. You are just so open, and your sense of humor just totally my type of people. I was like, yes, I need to know this woman. And then I watched you speak, and I was just blown away by how you shared what light language is and how it works. And you shared your story, which we are going to get into. And just the way you delivered it, I was just like, I just love you. I just love this woman and how you shared it. I had never heard anyone speak about light language the way you do, in such a humorous and down-to-earth way. So, yeah. This is why I really was like, we need to have you on my show. Yeah. So why don't we move into that, love? Tell us, how is it that you got to be, how you became who you are today and do what you do?
Right. It's such a big question, right? To start off with.
Totally.
How did you become who you are and do what you do? Yeah. Awesome. Well, I'll try to outline my pathway from physical therapist. Well, first kinesiologist and then physical therapist. If there's a commonality, I guess, on my path, it's constantly changing and course correcting. So as much as I felt like I was probably disconnected from my heart and my inner wisdom for the first good half of my path, I think it was there all along. I think it was just taking maybe less than subtle things to get me to course correct and to listen to that wisdom. But I basically, I'll try to outline some of the key things that went on for my path as from a physical therapist to now light language channel. Because I started off I worked clinically as a physical therapist for a good 10 years, and I actually left, not so gracefully. Hopefully my story will help some people shift a bit more gracefully and listen to the cues before they have to become like hit you upside the head kind of information. But I actually ended up leaving and making the decision to leave that professional career. And well, at the time, it was a blessing in disguise now, but it felt like it was almost like I was forced to leave, secondary to really chronic persistent pain and chronic fatigue. So like when I reflect back on my journey, I realized it was I was very much cut off from a very, I'd say, young age, pretty shut down and cut off from my heart, my soul voice, I guess, my essence, if you will. So I was a pretty heady person from a very little person age. I was a pretty, I guess you could call me like a walking head, I suppose, doing what I was told and listening to the authority outside of me and, being taught what I was supposed to do and then doing my best to do that. Right. And this idea
of
I can relate. Right. Yeah. And just kind of going through the motions, and I went through the motions very well. I was good at that on the surface, right, for a long time until eventually there was a huge missing piece that was slowly trying to get my attention. And when you don't pay attention, the messages get louder, right? And the calls to course correct, get louder. And at that time back then, listening to my heart was just like, what? Like, that would have been something that had a question mark behind it. Like, I'm not sure I would have totally understood or got when people said that, what exactly they were talking about. But interestingly enough, right, as it is for a lot of us, pain was my greatest teacher. And pain science and how pain works in the body is one of my passions and areas of education. But without getting into all that, that's a whole nother interview. But we really do experience pain for the purpose of protection, right? We experience pain because there's some type of perceived threat. And interestingly enough, what I've come to realize is what is more threatening to a being or a system than to be disconnected from the truth of who you are. And that's basically how I was walking around, disconnected from the essence of who I was, right? That not realizing or recognizing or perceiving that I was just what was in my mind. I was just what I knew. I was just my physical. I mean, my job was, I was a physical therapist, right? Mm-hmm. Like, how much more humorous and literal can that be? That was my job, right? So obviously, as I was working as a physical therapist, my messages got louder as I wasn't listening, and essentially forced me to course correct eventually and leave PT, like physical therapy. Once I had my kids, I really had to choose, you know, based on my quality of life and how I was struggling through my job. Am I going to be able to show up for my job and show up for my kids? And I knew that the answer was no. And I knew that I couldn't heal and make the changes that I wanted to make while still working clinically. I was this highly sensitive empath with no boundaries and no awareness about what an empath was, or no idea that what I was experiencing was not just me, not just my fault, not just my own, right? Like, it just, yes. I had no idea of the energetics and the exchange of a therapeutic relationship that I was entering into with, 10 to 20 people every single day. And it was funny, as a clinician, as I started to become more aware and learning more about pain, suffering, how it works in the nervous system and whatnot, I would tell my coworkers, I would say, if you want to know if your clients have a component of like neuropathic pain sensitivity as part of, what they're coming to see you for, just get me to take their history. And I called it like my spidey sense. That's how highly sensitive it was, just being in the environment as someone spoke about their own need for healing and what was going on with them. It would just take me out, literally. It would just flare up all of the hot spots, so to speak, in myself. So I made the it was not fun. And so I made the tough decision. I'd love to say it was much more graceful and obvious, but even then it was still a tough decision to leave my professional career and dedicate myself to rearranging basically the landscape of my life to be able to more honor my body and the wisdom and the messages that it was giving me, and my energy, and really more dedicate myself to a practice of self-healing, and ultimately because I wanted to be there for myself and my family. So,
Heidi, I can totally relate with that. Just being a former registered psychologist, it's just like, holy moly. And I loved how you just shared it exactly this way. And I just really want to pause here and highlight just those of you who are tuning in and you're in a profession, or even if you're in a business, that you're really recognizing that there may be some things that are happening in your business that don't quite feel aligned for you. Mm-hmm. It's okay. Like, give yourself permission to honor your path, your next level version of yourself, because we're always shifting and rearranging. And like Heidi shared, and like you've heard me say before in my previous episodes, it seriously was one of the hardest things I've ever did was retire my previous career and move into a new scary territory. It's like, you don't know what you don't know, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I was so trying to control my journey and my path from the level of my mind. And
me too.
What I knew and what I decided, this is how it's going to go. And then little did I know, there was a way bigger mission being like, no, this is the way it's going to go. Like,
if only it was that easy for us to tune in and be like, okay, I'm just going to trust. It's easier said than done.
Totally. Like, how much of this is in hindsight, looking back and being like, oh, this is what's going on. Yes. So ultimately, my journey to, as you read in the bio, where I was constantly very interested and passionate about learning and following so many different, I always have been following just what lit up my heart, which interestingly enough was there all along, I guess, right? It just wasn't, I wasn't giving it its full, seat at the table or to run the show, so to speak. But along my path and my difference, where I was drawn to learn and to educate, I gained so many tools. And on this dedicated decision to self-heal, I really started shedding the layers of who I was not, I guess, would be the quickest way to say it. It didn't feel this simple and quick along the way. It still doesn't necessarily, but
of course it didn't.
This practice of shedding the layers of who I was not and opening and asking and reconnecting to who am I actually and how can I help? How am I here to serve? And I think that really was what brought me to light language as a completely spontaneous gift and offering. Was who am I and how can I serve? And the light language started coming through, completely not learned, didn't know what it was. I didn't have an authority figure telling me, this is how you do light language and this is why you do light language. Now go. So it was completely foreign to me. And I just, over the last 4 years, really developed, the relationship with a whole new type of offering and a whole new type of, therapeutic offering.
And you know what? I think we'll pause here for commercial. And when we come back, let's dive in deeper with how you got gifted light language and then how you exactly discovered how to use it for yourself and for others.
Sounds great.
Beautiful.
A conscious lifestyle for a mindful life. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network.
Life is a flow, and enlightenment is simply harmonizing with the way life really is. Then you find that life is effortless, benevolent, and free of all suffering. Hey everyone, this is GP Walsh, and I want to invite you to my brand new radio show that's launching right here on OMTimes Radio called The Flow of Enlightenment. I've been a spiritual teacher for decades, and my greatest pleasure is being able to share with you these deep and highly practical spiritual ideas. So join me in The Flow every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern and let yourself be transformed.
My loves, you know you're here as a soul-led leader to transform this world through the sharing of your passions and gifts. You are here to be in your warrior of light and align your business with your highest self. I'm Rosalyn Fung of the show Activate Your Soulgasmic Business. Let's elevate your business to the next expansive level. I invite you to flow into a business soul alignment discovery call with me at rosalynfung.com. That's ROSALYN, fun as in have some fun, FUNG, and let's see how I can best hold space for you to align your highest self, magnetize your dream clients, and monetize on your soul mission. I can't wait to connect.
COVID-19, brought to you by CDC and the Ad Council.
Do you feel like your emotions are all over the place? That's normal during this abnormal time. There are a number of ways to cope. Maintain a healthy routine, get enough sleep, eat nutritious food, and exercise at least 30 minutes each day. Schedule some time to talk with a friend or family member. And remember, you can always take a few deep breaths to feel more centered.
Find more self-care and coping tips at coping-19.org.
Welcome back, loves. Okay, Heidi, please do share with us a little bit more in detail about how light language came through for you, and then we'll get into the understanding of what exactly it is and how it supports us in the collective.
Yeah, I'd love to. I love reflecting back on this, how it came through for me, because I find it so amazing, even like, yeah, that this went down for me, that this kind of happened for me. So I love the opportunity to go back and reflect on it. So, I mean, like I said, I was very much like, I'm going to see something first before I do it, right? Even though I was along the way, I was always drawn to things of a spiritual nature and of an energetic nature, and listened to podcasts and like read the books. And I love the overlap of the science with spirituality, but there was still always like that authority figure in that field or that area that I looked to and I modeled or, was drawn to. But really with light language, I hadn't had any experience or authority figure, so to speak, with it. I maybe had heard the word. I'd been working very, dedicated, like I said, on this journey for a good 3 years with a regular, almost day-to-day, like transformational energy healer and coach. And at that time, I was in kind of the peak of resolving this persistent pain where I had 2 young children, and we were just, I think I've described it before as like all these sensitive empaths, 3 of us in the house together, just like pushing each other's buttons nonstop. And we were like, it wasn't always, there was all kinds of moments of joy and beauty, of course, but there was also just really intense moments of pain and feeling triggered and showing up in ways with my family and my children that I knew that wasn't authentic, or that I didn't want to keep showing up in that way. And so I was really focusing at that time on just healing and detangling some of these emotional triggers and patterns. And I remember being, I was on the floor in my son's bedroom, and he must have been 2 or 3 at this time. And he was having just a complete and total meltdown. And it was always very hard for me to stay grounded and centered, and how I wanted to be in those moments without getting sucked into the emotion of it. So I was really in a concerted effort. I was sitting on the floor, almost near tears, along with him, just asking and surrendering. My daughter, she was 4 or 5 at the time, was there with me and with us. And I just was on the floor, and I just like out loud was asking, like, just please help, like all of the resources that I have available to me, please help. Like, how can I create more peace, more harmony in this situation? Like, it almost makes me want to cry, and I feel the emotions just thinking back on it. And the light language started coming through verbally. It just, dialects and sounds and tones just started coming out of my mouth. Now, and prior to this, I realize now that prior to this, I had been having full body activations and movements that were a form of light language too. I feel energy very kinesthetically. So I realized that I was channeling, so to speak, light language in another way for years before this. But this was the first time that it came out in what we'd more recognize as a language, right? Or a spoken form of energy transmission, I guess. So it came out, and I don't even really remember like what it felt or the dialect or anything like that, but I remember it just coming through. But what I do remember is my daughter. I don't even really remember the effect it had on my son, but I remember my daughter, who tends to be the mirror for me of my own subconscious or my own, ego or hidden patterns. She tends to voice that and speak those, and present that right in my face. And at her young age, after it came through and I kind of opened my eyes, and she whispered to me, she was sitting beside me and whispered, and she was like, "Mom, how do you know how to speak that language?" And I remember just sort of being like, "I don't know." Right. I kind of said, "I don't know, sweet." And then she was like, "Mom," like still whispering, right? "Mom, it was so cute. Are you allowed to speak that language?" And I find it so fascinating, because I know now that she was speaking in her innocence and wisdom, that she was speaking to that part, from that part of us that feels like there's a fear and a forbidden nature to anything that's unknown. Right. And
this is so powerful.
I know, isn't that amazing? And that's how it came through the first time. And from there on in, it's been developing a relationship with it for me. And I really the light language does really require us to embrace the unknown, and to embrace love, because that's essentially what languages of light. I mean, they could be called love languages, right? But I know there's a whole, love languages is a whole other thing, but they could be called languages of love, right? They're divine energies of love in various forms and frequencies. And it's funny because people will sometimes comment that what it brings up in them, some people will receive it and it feels so familiar, like it just brings them home. They've known this their whole life. They'll even hear loved ones speaking English words to them and repetitively, even though the transmission might sound completely different to me or somebody else. So some people, they'll just feel it and recognize it at home. And other people, well, definitely it's not uncommon to feel a little bit disconcerted or, what is that? But if we reflect on, how is our relationship with that 4-letter word love, that it doesn't always feel like, we don't always naturally feel drawn to, aligned, or capable of, harmoniously and easily giving and receiving love. That's what a lot of us are here, for, right? Is to return to the truth of who we are as love. So we're reconciling this relationship with love. And for me, this is where the light language comes from, this divine energies of love. And for me, it just happens to come, I feel like it comes through in so many different frequencies and forms. But for me, it comes through in body and hand postures. Like I said, once upon a time, and I share this in case anybody is having these experiences, once upon a time, it was like full body, like almost out of control, knock me over, sometimes body movements. And now it's really settled into my hands that as I even am speaking right now or moving through signing light language symbols in the space around me through mudras, and activations spaciously, so that it's settled for me in the kinesthetic hand postures rather than the whole body movement. So will still happen sometimes, but not as much. I think that was from the relationship.
Sorry, Heidi. I'm so fascinated. That is so interesting because, I do also speak with my hands in general as a speaker. And then when I started light language, my process was more around speaking it, and then the body movements came. It was almost like this, like that sense of, can I do this? Is this like, that was first with the verbal and then with the hands, and then the hands just came. So yeah, that's so fascinating here how everybody's process is different and how yours was like almost a knock you over. That does not sound fun. Totally. Or it's like one big body orgasm.
Totally, and it would happen. And it was funny. Maybe that is fun. That I got, that had probably been happening for a good 9 years. And I bring it up, and I'm glad we're having this conversation because I think the common thread, no matter how source is moving through you and anybody that's listening, if any advice would be, just let it happen. If it feels like it's coming from wisdom, it feels like it's coming through the filter of your own high self, then, and you get to have a say. You get to have a say and you get to have a relationship with it. But if it feels like it's taking more energy and causing you more pain or discomfort to stop it from moving through, then my advice would be to let it move through. And yes, you can, or you wouldn't be getting the impulse to do it. So the number of times that during transmissions, either definitely one-on-one sessions and in group sessions where people will spontaneously start to move their hands, will move their bodies, they'll start to speak in tone. It's like that invitation of this is in you too, right? It's just like, it's like that resonance and that vibration showing up, and that same capacity within you is just resonating and being freed, right, to express itself.
Yes. And I love what you just shared, because how many times do we not, just in general, light language or not, just how beautiful analogy this is, that where in our life, and those of you who are listening, where in your life are you not giving yourself permission to express, whether it's verbally, physically, right, energetically, and what happens is we hold ourselves back in our comfort zone. So I love how light language is an avenue where we get to explore the unknown in a way that breaks us from those limiting beliefs of how we need to be. And I want to say for myself personally, like when I first started speaking, I was like, shit, what do I do now? Like,
yeah,
people are going to think I'm weird. Can I actually say this out loud? Like, am I going to harm anybody? Like, I started to have all these questions come up, and I kept it to myself for a while because I just didn't know what to do with it. And so, yeah, it's been a process, but I just want to emphasize, Heidi, just like thank you for who you are and doing the work to just providing a safe space for people to really explore their own barriers and break free from them through light language. So
totally,
huge
I like
and
you said,
healing.
like I felt like I went through the process, and I have to say that I was fairly guided. Like you'd think my heady brain, my analytical brain, like I'd be Googling, I'd be looking up what's light language. And it's interesting because I didn't at all. And I was really guided. This journey with light language has been such a testament to following, opportunity to follow and trust my own heart, because I was very much guided not to be with it and develop my own relationship, my own understanding of it. And as it started coming through in sounds and tones, and I know for me, I'm speaking to how it comes through for me. I know it's different for everybody. And I know some people channel specific, maybe races and groups of beings. And I know for me, and I was judging myself because it wasn't like that for me. But what it's been for me is I access from any level, basically any beings, energies that are here in support, that are coming through my high self filter in support and through the desire and intention of someone else's high self, heart wisdom, that's what comes through me for them. So what comes through in sessions with me is very much a co-creation of what your own heart is asking for. And as such, I kind of let go of wondering like, what race is that? Or is that, my understanding is, and my feel of it is it comes through for me from different levels. It can be very ancestral, very earthly or elemental. It can be very angelic and come through from angelic realms, or it can be very cosmic and come through from very cosmic galactic beings and races, right? So that there's all these different levels. And of sort of where it comes from, I guess. So I kind of let go of trying to decipher, like, this comes from here, this comes from there. And I realized it's really meant to come through land for the people receiving it, and for it to stimulate their own dormant or not dormant power and potential and wisdom, and to be received. Like, people in a group with me will receive one transmission, but it can land completely differently and have different messages, different clarity, and different activations for everybody in the group, including how it felt like it came through for me. So it really is a co-creation that meets people where they're at. And I describe it, I guess, if you want me to move into, like, this is how I describe, I guess, light language.
Yes, please.
As much as it's not meant to be really analyzed or, ingested through the filters of the mind, it's really meant to be more felt. It's affecting us on this multi-dimensional level. It doesn't have to go through the density and the filters of understanding what we know as sort of English in so many languages. But, we are also a mind and a brain along with a heart, being heart beings. So our brains, it's helpful to throw, I call it like to throw my brain a bone. So it just allows me to explore and open up into what my heart has to say a bit more. So like a light language, I just like to break down those words, like light being something that's so high frequency, it's almost intangible, right? And language being any form of communication, any form of that brings, energy and information, that involves an exchange of energy and information. However that happens, it doesn't have to be verbal, right? And so I feel light language is really moving us towards a universal form of communication that just transcends the limitations of our egos and of our minds and of our human kind of level of awareness, and returns us to this truth. It's kind of this invitation to remember and come home to who we are. It's like a couple ways to feel into it is like a bridge, like, it's like this bridge back to our hearts, or like a portal that we get to play between the physical and the subtle realms that brings together in unity our divinity and our humanity, right? Because we get to experience it through the sensual nature of our human experience, right? But it's coming from that place that we came from, right? That divine place of oneness. And because of that, I would say that this sacred medicine is like an antidote. It can serve as really an antidote to the illusions of separation that I believe are at the root. I'll be bold here and say that I believe that are at the root of any persistent pain, any persistent suffering, any persistent chronic dis-ease, that at their root, there's some component of separation, meaning actively being in a state of not knowing the truth of who we are. And that in of itself is the root of the dis-ease. That's the alarm bells that are causing the system, right, to experience all these symptoms, is this illusion of separation. And I feel like the light language is here, well, because we're evolving, we're becoming more light, we're reaching for greater potentials, and therefore we have access to greater potentials. We have access to more light, right, and new forms of energy and communication, because we're trying to create the new. We're trying to get out of the old pattern, whatever they input your patterns, right, whatever they are. We're trying to transcend those patterns and create new relationships, new states of health, new states of abundance. And on a bigger level, I would like to go big too. I feel like we're a microcosm of the macro, that we're trying to create new infrastructures, new paradigms, new ways of existing as like a human race. And so to do that, it would make sense to look to the new, the unknown. And I think that's why the light language is here, and I'm noticing it being triggered and activated and coming through for people at exponential rates in even this last year compared to my awareness of it in my own journey for the first few years. Is so many more people are getting access to it, right? And or really feeling drawn and feeling a sense of home. Like, I know where that comes from. I had a woman come up to me at that live event afterwards, and she said to me, she just said, "Thank you." And I was like, "You're welcome." She said, "You're speaking the language of the High Council of Arcturians." And I was like, yeah. And I was like, wow. And it's funny because again, I haven't been stuck on like, who is it that I'm channeling it? What is it that I'm saying? It really is meant to just come through and land for the people where it needs to land. And in any one transmission, I'll have so many different dialects come through, especially on one-on-one. They're really specific to the person. But it was so amazing that I was just like, oh my God, yes, I do, without needing to know. But the point is that it came through and it landed for you, and you knew it, and she recognized it, and she heard it, and has since unlocked her own connection with channeling that race of being.
So powerful.
Right?
That's
that
so
was so
powerful.
Familiar and a place of home for her. So yeah, I feel like, there's a couple ways I'll explain the light language. Like sometimes I'll call
Heidi, we'll do that. Yeah, we'll do that because I mean, this is getting really exciting, right? And I'm like, I don't want to stop. So we're going to pause for a commercial. When we come back, we're going to move into some of the amazing impacts that Heidi's work has on people. And I'll speak into that personally myself as well.
Free your mind. Expand your soul. OMTimes Radio. IOM-FM.
OMTimes magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. Connect at OMTimes.com. OMTimes, creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Grab a cup of tea or a glass of wine and tune in for inspired conversations with publisher Linda Joy on Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern. Linda creates sacred space for leading female luminaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches and healers. A soulful venue where guests openly share the fears and obstacles they've overcome, wisdom and lessons learned, and the personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired conversations to empower you on your path to authentic, soulful living.
If I could be you,
and you could be me,
for just 1 hour.
If you could find a way
to get inside
each other's mind.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
We've all felt left out. And for some, that feeling lasts more than a moment. We can change that. Learn how at belongingbeginswithus.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
All right, welcome back, my loves. So Heidi, what we'll do is share about your Guru in You Light Language community that you have created. And I'd love to have you share about what it's like to work with you with intuitive healing, light language sessions. I also want to speak, maybe I'll start that right now and then we'll move into that. Then I'd love for you to guide us through a meditation and you and I will come together in a light language duet. How does that sound?
Sounds good.
Beautiful. So when we met at Kula Sisterhood, I had the honor to have an in-person session with you with the intuitive healing session. It's very much like laying on the massage table, very much like Reiki. And you were, just beautiful doing some light language verbally and the symbols over my body. And I'll speak to it from a client perspective. It was very activating. Like you, I'm also very sensitive to energy. And so whenever I'm in a Reiki treatment or even I do Reiki on myself, my body also torques very crazily, like in a Kundalini style, very sensual. And I was noticing that was happening. Sometimes I'm sure it doesn't look sexy, but that's okay. It's like convulsions. And I really noticed that was coming through in our work. It was very powerful. And I felt this complete activation, heart opening, and this complete peace as you were working on me, and that sense of coming home to myself. And so I'd love for you to speak a little bit more about the work that you do and the, we'll say, quote unquote, results that your clients receive, whether it's the direct sessions or even in your the Guru in You Light Language community.
Yeah, well, if we start, with the Guru in You community, basically, this has been such a beautiful culmination of, again, just completely following the heart hits of where this offering, like continuing into how do I serve, what is this coming through for, following those hits, and it was becoming really clear that this wanted to be start being offered in a group setting and on a regular basis, because the light language is like this, right? It's like this gentle jackhammer, I'll call it sometimes. That offers this pure packet of multidimensional information that your higher self unpacks in divine timing to either initiate releasing and clearing of what's not serving you, like right down to a DNA coding level, and the dual benefit of activating what it is that and catalyzing, right? What it is that's in alignment with your heart's desires. So that this offering wanted to be made on a regular basis, right? And that people can have access to recordings. So we gather every Sunday via Zoom through a membership and through a monthly membership, and people can drop in too. But I've also created for anybody tuning into this radio show a first month free coupon so people can come check it out and get a sense of what it is for themselves, which is super exciting, because the idea is the more you get exposed to this experience and this frequency and this reality, the more you become it, the more you receive information and wisdom from it, right? And the more you basically just get bathed in ancestral wisdom, you return to yourself, you fill your battery, right? And you can move into your week to create anew again from this place of high vibration, right? So that, and be able to listen to the replays whenever you want and have this full library of now months and months of activations from various themes and meditations so that you can access them whenever you want, because they're very multi-layered. You'll get more different things out of it every time you listen. So that's the Guru and You Light Language community. And then the one-on-one sessions, they've again been such a heart-led, it's hard to even know what to call them, because they're a really unique mashup of, I do them distance now via Zoom, which really is, I'm finding very cool in what it gives the freedom to unlock. And there's just activations that are going on in people's virtual physical bodies, from like my physical therapy knowledge base all the way to energetic activations pouring through my hands while the verbal light language is coming through. And people are experiencing like activations of their own gifts. Healers and helpers are seeing, you know, their healing modalities being up-leveled and new things coming through in their offering to their clients. And people are experiencing resolution of pain and injury recovery, and even like parallel life trauma resolution will come up during the sessions, and almost like these ancestral initiations and cleansing. Like I can't even, it's so wild what ends up coming through and what's happening. So that's, I know it's really tough to explain, but it's this just beautiful, intuitively guided co-creation, but what it is that your intentions are, what you want, calling in your guidance team and letting that come through and be channeled through my hands, my voice, my whole body for you. And people are just, you know, people will get full body movements and activations, or they'll hear like they'll have a question that they're needing guidance on, and people will receive like that clarity in an answer, or it'll come weeks or months down the road, right? Again, whether it happens in the session or not, your higher self will unpack it in your own divine timing.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah. The light language is unlocking certain DNA codes. And your community sounds juicy. I'm like, I'm checking it out. The beautiful thing about light language is everybody has just like all the different languages in the world, different dialects, and some are going to seem similar, but what's really cool is it's unique to that person that's delivering it. And we really get activated in different ways by different light language speakers, and it's so cool. So thank you, Heidi. Well, why don't we move into the experience of Heidi and her gifts? And I'll have you guide us through a meditation, and then we'll come in. You just cue me for a light language duet.
Yeah, you bet. So let's move into that. Wherever you are, whenever you can, just allow yourself to settle into your most comfortable way of being. And if it's available to you in this moment, allow yourself to close your eyes or focus your gaze on one point, and just to begin to take a few conscious breaths, and just even allowing every exhale to be audible and sighing for those first few breaths. And just use that breath to bring a sense of peace and calm into your being. Breathing yourself into a state of presence and an openness and willingness to receive. It'll come through even within and amongst the English. Invite a sense of peace and ease into your mind, softening any attachments, entanglements with your thoughts, softening your brain, and welcoming a sense of peace and ease into your entire body. And just really give yourself permission to sink into the support of whatever it is that's beneath you. And feel and breathe in your connection to Mother Earth. And then I invite you to bring your awareness Leaving your hands to your heart. And just really welcome in that essence of who you are. Your own higher self, love and light. That aspect of you that's always been there. And that's watching, witnessing your breath and your body. And your mind. And from this place, just ask your heart to take you home. Take me back to who I truly am. And we'll ask that this light language blessing bridge us beyond any patterns of suffering or limitation back to this truth of being and becoming who we truly are. Raya manayro kudashan saratayo miantura takatus un Vreram vera kairo shisandur tairo undara itero umpao Vresh kairo mantera kiauro maure pera shusan zatu Veram vreram kairairam vreram veram Vrairam gurash kiaironda. Rosalyn, if you're feeling activated and anything coming through, by all means, I feel like the transmissions can be beautifully layered. So follow your own intuition there. Vayata rashasi.
Marakia Horakua Maratia Maratika Marakia Maratu Maratia
Bereshianta Katair Utamine Vreram Berata
Marakaratu Kia Marakia Maratu Marakia Marako Maratia Maraka Akuratia
Bashas Sheskair Uta Naberekita Rovana Matara Iru Ura Mairish is Utaravantao Bekai Shasana Hatara
Maratu Marati Marakia Maratu Bere Koratik Barakiatu Marakia Maraku Marakia Maratu Marati Marati Maraku Marati and Korati Barakoratia Kiratu Marati
Samjerviato Erespiora Berashanda Kakoran Hasha Urish Visinda Vendu Bete Kiara Vintash Itza Turash Beshakara Tirash Usantarashi Abao Veta
Morakia Maratu
Kashire Be Meravain Parashas Hasakandu Uteresh Ika Parantara
Marakia Maratu Maraka Marati Marakia Marati Moraka Marati Maraka Maratia Marake Marania Marana Koratia Maratia
Bashu Siaravim Te Kuram Perata Ranana Karakatana Nietur Irash Irash Sairash Irash Koratia
Marako Marati Koratia
Barashkai Tutaram Tadacha Umbereshian Tatash Kuruntrash Isintarash Ukanahantara Atara Itur. And I invite you, as you're listening, to notice what's coming up for yourself in your own experience, whatever's showing up in color, in thoughts and memories and sensations in the body, trusting and following any impulses to tone, to move, to allow emotion to move. And just follow those sensations. Follow where your awareness goes. And allow your awareness to be completely filled by information from your own inner guru. And breathe in with thanksgiving and reverence for all that was offered and received, whether it was expected or unexpected, understood or not. Trust in your own divine guidance that brought you to this recording, this offering. And thank yourself, your high self, and we thank all of our guides and the love of all that is that's supporting our eternal success. Namaste. Thank you for sharing in that brief co-creation. And thank you, Rosalyn.
Oh my
that was
gosh,
fun
Heidi,
to
that
layer.
was so fun. I was like, girl, we got to make an album.
We do. We're going to do some
so
riffing.
beautiful. So Heidi, I know the links are in the show notes. Heidi Mason, you can follow her on Instagram at heidi.mason, MASON.3. As well, all her links are in her bio.
Yeah.
Anywhere else, Heidi?
And you know what? If you want to, catch me on Facebook at Healing Through Light Language at Heidi Mason. And in my link tree, in my bio, there's a free guided meditation that you can check out with light language. And I hope to meet some of you in dropping in or take advantage of that free